Hello, Andrea, again for the
Oh,
second episode of this podcast of an Heart to Heart. So, in our previous podcast, we covered a lot of questions, and we thought that it would be good to follow up with all the other questions that we have. So, I would like to know um, when you came in Germany. Uh, how did it feel for you? Like change of country, change of identity. And what I would like to know also is who is Andrea now? What is Andrea's identity now?
hmm. Yeah, good question. When anyone, I think I can say this as a general statement. When you move away from your home country and you move into a new country, new culture, new lifestyle, and you've lived there for a while, when you go back home, you recognize that you don't recognize that you have changed until you go back home.
Exactly. And you have changed. You're somewhere in between.
And then that's the next challenge because you always feel like a foreigner in the foreign country. And then when you get home, you're also realizing that you're not really necessarily fitting
Exactly.
in your original home. So you are somewhere and it can feel like you're floating.
Mm,
Yeah. And I've recognized this to be a challenge for many expats.
yeah,
You don't really get settled in the real sense. And it's sometimes even defining where is my new home. Sometimes that's difficult to do.
exactly.
But I had to make a conscious effort to define for myself because sometimes you will ask, do you think you will retire here? Oh, I'm not thinking that far. I'm just here. And then before you know it, you are floating for many years and can't decide where you are.
Exactly. Mm,
And for me, I was like that for a couple of years until I made a conscious decision that even for my own mental sanity, I needed to I had to ground myself. I had to figure, as I used to float a lot. When I say float a lot, I was always going back home because I'm not really comfortable with the weather. And I'm going back home because I want some of my food there. And I was floating. And then I stopped, I reflected and realized that might not be the healthiest setup. I had to decide if I'm here, I should be here.
yes, having a grounding.
You have to have a grounding.
Mm,
And that's when I just made the conscious decision I'm here.
mm,
And even if I'm not here for the next 20 years, I'm here now. And
yes.
that meant a lot of changes for me. It meant I was now accepting more of my environment. And
Mm,
what do I mean? I mean, I was no longer craving as much from my Jamaican food, for example. I was no longer annoyed, feeling so much discomfort from the weather, for example.
mm. Because
I
you
started,
accepted.
say that again?
Because you accepted it.
I accepted it.
Mm,
And this is where I started to understand the concept of acceptance.
yeah,
That when you accept your situation where you are less resistant because it's the resistance that sometimes brings the pain, by the way. But the moment you succumb, you accept. It's almost like electricity. If you put too much resistance in there, then the current cannot flow.
exactly.
So you're not in a state of flow. And in order to get into that state of flow, I realized that I had to just accept it. You have two options. You can either accept or you can reject. If you reject, then you should remove yourself from it, or you accept so that you are now more at calm or at peace. It's the only chance for peace.
Yeah.
And then so now life is much different because now I have moved into the space of acceptance. So
Hmm. So who is Andrea now?
still trying to explore, trying to find myself, if I can put it that way. I can't even I'm still a Jamaican living in Germany.
Mhm. Yeah.
In some ways, that
Yeah.
never I've accepted that will never really
But
change.
imagine you go from Germany to another country, then you will be a Jamaican who lived in Germany, who moved into that third country. And
Yeah.
Germany will, the influence of Germany will appear then. Because, oh, in
Mhm.
Germany, it was like this. In Germany, it was like this. It was like this. Yeah. It will
Always
add up
be.
into your identity.
Yeah. So these are things that affect your identity unconsciously, by the way,
Yeah,
until it becomes apparent to you how much you have changed. And
exactly.
again, you don't recognize those significant changes until you go back to your original roots. Then you're seeing, oh, I have grown so much, or
Yeah,
I've outgrown this space so much.
exactly. What is your most prevalent emotion? And if you could change it with one other, which would be the emotion you would swap it with?
Yeah, interesting question. I think it's peace. And that's my most, even in situations of anxiety and frustration, there is still this level of peace that I have within. I don't know where it comes from, Ha-Meem, by the way. Because,
Wow.
for example, I could tell you, I'll give you a situation. I had a issue I was dealing with, and it was on my mind, and I was thinking about it. And but someone came over to me, and he said to me, "You're always smiling." And I thought to myself, in this moment, while I'm here thinking about this difficult situation, someone is saying I'm smiling. And that's when I stopped and I reflected on this point. And I was like, well, I guess at the core, there is still this peace at the core, even with what's happening in the environment or around me. And again, I really don't know where it comes from. And I've just accepted it. I've recognized it, and yeah, I'm embracing it.
So
At
you
the
wouldn't
core, there
change
is
it
peace.
with any
I
other
wouldn't
emotion.
change it.
Mhm.
No, I wouldn't change that.
And I can testify, I have always seen you smiling. Do you feel that in Germany you have limited agency? And how much do you feel concerned about here or about Jamaica?
Agencies meaning Jamaicans?
No, agency is like how much do you feel that you have a degrees of liberty? What you can
Oh,
do, you can execute it, like
oh,
barriers of language barrier, your car maybe.
oh,
So
oh,
how do you feel in Germany? You can be the fullest you.
mm,
And the second question is how much do you feel concerned about what's happening in Germany? And do you feel like more concerned about Jamaica or do you feel concerned about Germany? It's about grounding, the same question we did before.
oh yeah, but it is interesting because I've also recognized that every country has its own challenges.
Yeah.
And so, there is never a perfect anything.
Mm,
Yeah, so in Germany, we have challenges here that are for us as foreigners, that
mm,
the language barrier, that's an obvious one.
exactly.
The bureaucracy is another obvious one. It's very difficult sometimes to navigate the system here, to understand it, to get through, to get past it. I think at the core, though, it's the language barrier that
Mm,
contributes greatly to this. So the only chance I've recognized is you have to face it. So whatever the challenges are, language, you have to face it, learn the language.
yeah.
And the bureaucracy, it never goes. So you have to understand it as well.
Mm,
In my own country, we have our own challenges there as well, also not disappearing.
mm.
Um, but yeah,
And about politics or life, are you more concerned about Germany or about Jamaica? In every like news, what news do you hear too?
yeah, in Jamaica, concerned about the violence sometimes that we have there.
Mm,
Um, yeah, it's a beautiful country. The people are beautiful, very friendly, easygoing. But our main challenge sometimes is about the violence there. Um, in Germany, main challenge is the language barrier, getting past that.
mm.
Um, and of
What level
course,
are you right now?
I'm at level B2,
Oh my
so
God, this
moving
is
up,
nice. I'm
moving up.
A2.
A2, okay, keep going, keep going.
Oh, next time we do a podcast in German.
I would love that actually. That's on my vision board.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. So
We're making it.
it's my goal. So shall we, yeah, do
Yeah,
that for 2025?
in 2025. And like ne for next year, we're doing the same the one at the end of 2025. We're doing it in German.
So far, all right, let's see. Maybe we can bring that vision closer to the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
You know, even if it's broken German, it still
Yes,
counts
I
as
think
German.
yeah, it's about the value. We don't have to do perfect, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
let's do it.
Okay, my next question is about friendship. How do you navigate friendship? Do you
Mm,
have more male friends or female friends? Whom are you
mm,
comfortable with? And
yeah,
then, what is a friend for you?
yeah. So, what's a friend for me? I'll start with that. A friend is someone who is compassionate, um, kind, caring. Those things are very important to me. But even more so, what's also very important to me is moral values, right? So a friend should be trustworthy, yeah. And I mean, you have different types of friendships as well. So you
Exactly.
may have a friend that you can count on for this area of your life, and but at the core, it's about being trustworthy. It's about the morals and the values that you have. And so for me, if it's male or female, it at the core, it doesn't really matter, right?
Oh,
Male or
yeah.
female.
Mm,
Although you have found that male friends tend to be a little bit more objective, not so emotional, and so on. But then you also have to navigate the is physical attraction and so on, and how to deal with those things, which through open conversation that can be dealt with. But I think they provide this diversity. So female friends give you the compassion, that moral level of understanding. Again, it depends on the area, but I think both serve a purpose in my life, males and females. Mm.
How do you navigate conflicts? Having to
Oh,
have those hard conversation.
yeah, conflicts are inevitable. That's the first step.
Yeah. Acceptance.
And that actually that takes a level of maturity as well to accept
Mm,
conflicts must happen.
yeah.
And in fact, most relationships, I think they fail because they have not accepted that point that you must
Mm,
have conflict. And without that, it actually gives you an opportunity for growth and
mm,
development for the relationship as well as personal development and growth.
mm.
Now, if we first accept that, then that's the first step. The second step is now how to deal with it in a constructive way.
Yeah.
which many people, also many relationships are failing because, again, of this point. Um, Conflicts occur, we don't know how to handle it.
Mm.
So, coming back to the basis of friendship, one other point is respect. I didn't talk about respect before, but also for friendships, for the friendship to work, we have to have a certain level of respect and boundary.
Mm.
So I understand that in the case of a conflict, there are just certain things I should not say, I should not do.
Mm.
I have to show respect for you. I also have to show respect for the relationship. So even during a heated discussion, because through conflict, there is also some emotion that is attached to the conflict.
Mm.
And if we are not mature enough to control our emotions, then the conflict escalates into
Mm.
something else, an argument, for example. So you don't want it to go to an argument. So what we try to do is find constructive ways to handle the conflict, showing respect for each other during the conflict, and focus on the problem and not on the person. That's also
Exactly.
important.
Mm.
And if we can get to a stage where we can isolate the problem from the person, it's also a great level of maturity. It shows a level of maturity that yeah. So to deal with a conflict, you have to have a certain level of emotional maturity in order to get the positive benefit of that conflict. Because conflict is also an opportunity for growth, as I said before.
Exactly.
And if you are willing to work through the conflict, in fact, if you value the relationship enough, then that's also another fundamental point to solving a conflict constructively.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. And hearing you, I just realized that conflict doesn't mean a fight. Conflict is the source where you realize that you have a disagreement, but not necessarily you have gone into an argument. Conflict is just realizing that you are not thinking the same way or you have acted differently. And
mm,
so it's not an argument yet. And
mm,
then as you said, you can deal it in different ways to come up to um, um, an agreement or I don't know, a way forward.
mm. A
And
solution.
yeah, and as you said that if you value the friendship or the relationship, you will not avoid argument because you have a conflict and you want to resolve it. It means you are not giving up on that relationship. You want it to be around. And if you let them know what you're thinking about and if you want to talk about it, it's a positive thing. So
Mhm.
this is what I retain from
Yes,
the
definitely.
answer.
Sometimes we try to avoid it.
Yeah.
Avoidance is not necessarily the best option. So it's better to face it. As you said,
Mm.
if you value the relationship, we
Yeah,
find constructive ways to resolve the issue. Yeah.
exactly. But one thing that I have realized, Andrea, in my life is that most people do not want conflict. They are more keen to just cut you off than come and resolve have an argument. I'm more prone to argument. I would go and I will argue and I will say, "Oh, let's move." Okay, it happens as part of life, but let's move on. But most people won't want to do it, and they will just avoid it and leave
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, the avoidance is usually the option that we tend to go with. But conflict, you can avoid it. There are different methods of for conflict response,
Mm,
but avoidance is one that we humans we tend to gravitate towards.
mm,
Why? Because I don't want to hurt your feelings. I don't want you to get angry with me. And usually this is the reason. So we think it's the best way. I'm not
yeah.
saying it maybe depends. Sometimes it depends.
Yeah.
If, for example, it's a very emotional, heated situation, maybe avoidance is the best option. Could be.
Mhm.
But there is so much power in
Resolving.
resolving the conflict. There can be so much
Absolutely
power.
agree. Yeah,
But again, and this is another point that it also takes two persons.
exactly.
So both persons need to be also at a level of maturity in order to get that conflict resolved. So there are just a lot of different factors involved. But if we as humans can get to a point where we see that resolving the conflict can be beneficial to both parties, we can become more powerful, we can grow through the conflict, and we can learn through the conflict.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And I use for my inner self, I use the metaphor that it's like growing a new leaf. Growth is like growing a new leaf. For this new leaf to come out of me, it means that it's gonna, tear down some skin somewhere and it's gonna pop up. And it's gonna be painful for me to grow a new leaf. Or, having wings, to grow wings, they will come out from your back. So it means that there will be a process. Or when we grow teeth as well, it comes out and it's painful, but then it's beautiful. So you have to
There's,
go through that painful patch to
mhm.
grow a new leaf.
There's a saying that the light only enters the wound.
Oh,
So you have to go through the pain and the suffering and so on if you want to bring that light in.
yeah.
It only goes through the wound. So it's not an easy process.
Yeah. And
Growth.
as you said, it takes two. You can want to grow, but growth is a painful process. And if the other person is not at the same level as you, wanting the same things, you cannot grow alone. So then
Mhm.
you will have to just say, okay, accept it that
Mhm.
it's like that.
Mhm.
What's psychology for you?
Psychology is life experiences, how we navigate life. It's about understanding others, understanding the social dynamics,
Mm,
understanding what makes someone do what they do. So they have another saying, that if I understand where you're coming from, then I can understand you more where you are now.
exactly.
So psychology is really all of that. And it's really about also understanding your perspective in the dynamics of things around you.
It's true. I think I have grown up thinking that psychology was only for mental illnesses. And
Mhm.
then you suddenly realize that it's also about understanding yourself and self-improvement. And then you unlock psychology. You say, oh, really? Oh, this is what's happening. And as you said, it's understanding others and understanding yourself
Yeah.
and move forward. What's the most beautiful creation on earth?
Oh, the harmony between people.
Harmony between.
That's the most beautiful creation. When we can get to a point in our lives where even through differences, we can still work together and resolve conflicts and work together as a team. Two people working together as a team
Mm.
in harmony. It's the greatest thing, greatest gift on earth.
Wow. And we come back to spirituality because, for example, in Islam, we say there's no difference between a black person and a white person when they're practicing of faith, or there's no difference between a rich person and a poor person. In Islam, everyone is equal. And I'm sure that there are like same equality in other religions as well. And and that's where harmony comes into place.
Exactly.
Creating
Ex-
Um, If you had a magic wand, what would you do?
If I had a magic wand, I think I would help to make this world a better place, make it more efficient, and bring more harmony
Oh,
across the world. And the things
I
that are dividing us, I would find a way to open our eyes to see that they are only there as obstacles and they're standing in our way.
yeah, this is so powerful. I
Mm.
think, yeah, you have said that you have to look past our colors, our skin color, our genders, and then realize it's just the characters we are playing. We are more than
Avatars.
that. We are just players.
Mm.
We are all players
Yep.
of this game,
Yeah.
and we have to go past our differences. It's the armors and the conditions that we have taken part in,
Mm.
but we have the same goal.
We have the same goal.
What are you reading these days?
Oh, The Power of Now, Edgar Tolle. It's,
Okay.
I don't know if you know of that book.
No,
It's
I don't know.
amazing. So it talks about being present and self-awareness. So you can either be living in either one of three dimensions. You can either be living in the past. You have people who are living today, and every day they are consumed by the past.
Yeah.
You can be living in the present moment,
Yeah.
which is where the magic happens. So that's where happiness is, that's where peace is. Or you can be living in the future. That's where anxiety is living.
Exactly.
So in his book, he talks about these three dimensions and he encourages us to live in the present moment because that's where you're going to have the peace. Anxiety is in the future, regret is in the past. So if you are living a life of regret, chances are you're living every day in the past. So today it should be a new day, but your thoughts are consumed of issues of the past.
Mm.
And through this reflection, in the book also it talks a lot about the two options you have. If you're not happy with a situation, you can do one of two things. You can accept it or you can do something about it. But either way, you need to decide if you want to be at peace.
Yeah, it's true.
And yeah, it's a spiritual journey.
Yeah, and as you were saying, talking about this book, I think I viewed a short YouTube video about austerity philosophy, and this is like the same. Um, where I think the founder is Aurelianus, uh, who founded this, and he was a Christian, I think,
Mm.
and so he wanted to live. He was a king, but he wanted just not be bothered about being a king, but just a human being and everything. Like being a king is not a big deal, and not being a king is not a big deal as well in his life. And he was saying that basically, all of a great part of our sorrow comes from living in the past. And so having the regrets and worrying about what we could have done in our past we didn't do, or from all anxiety from the future. Oh, how I'm gonna handle it? How I'm gonna handle it? And if we are in the present, we can focus more on our day and just
Mhm.
have the trust, letting go the past. Say, I have no more power to act on my past. So b- just shut the burden and say, I cannot do anything. So just shut the door. And for the future, it's you are just worrying in advance. So just have trust in you that if you have already dealt with difficult situations before, you will be equipped with tools to deal with future situations in the future. So don't worry beforehand on these situations and be present.
Yeah, the present.
It's more easy said than done.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, you can't live 100% in the present. We have to plan for the future, and we also have to think about what happened in the past. But the idea is, as much as is possible, try to remain present, even 80% of your time.
Yeah.
Mm.
Is there anything you would like to add? Any tip you would like to give to the viewers?
Um, Stay positive, which
Mhm.
is not easy to do. So, all the things that require effort are things that are usually not easy to do, but are what is going to help us to live a more fulfilling life, like staying positive, setting goals for ourselves, keeping away those negative energies, which will go once you have set those goals and once you have made a positive effort to stay positive. Be
Yeah.
grateful for life.
Yeah.
We're here and we always find something to be grateful and thankful for.
True.
And show kindness wherever possible. And kindness doesn't necessarily mean money, right? You can be kind with just a smile. Sometimes
Yeah,
people just need that. Can be
exactly.
kind by giving a hug. Sometimes that's all that's needed.
It's true.
So I think these are things that help others and they also help us to grow.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Andrea. I enjoyed this conversation so much, and I have taken so many bets. I am rebooting it definitely to
Yeah.
come again and ground myself in this beautiful conversation. And I wish you all the best, sending you love and gratefulness for being here. And I will see you soon.
Let's talk again soon. Yes.